श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। नमस्सभाभ्यः सभापतिभ्यश्च वो नमः। देवेन्द्रमौळिमन्दारमकरन्दकणारुणाः विघ्नान् हरन्तु हेरम्बचरणाम्बुजरेणवः। वेदण्डास्यं गिरां देवीं सद्गुरोः पादपङ्कजं जगद्गुरूंश्च शृङ्गाद्रिस्थितान् वन्देऽर्थसिद्धये। मालासुधाकुम्भविबोधमुद्रा विद्या विराजत्करवारिजाताम् अपारकारुण्यसुधाम्बुराशिं श्रीशारदाम्बां प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम्। सत्यज्ञानसुखस्वरूपममलं क्षीराब्धिमध्यस्थितम् योगारूढमतिप्रसन्नवदनं भूषा सहस्रोज्ज्वलम् यक्षञ्चक्रपिनाकसाभयवरान् बिभ्राणमर्कच्छविम् छत्रीभूतफणीन्द्रमिन्दुधवलं लक्ष्मीनृसिंहं भजे। गिरां देवी वाणी विमलगुणिनौ मे च पितरौ गुरुत्तंसाः मल्लाप्रगडकुलभूषा मणिबुधः कुटुम्बाख्यः शास्त्री रसिकहृदयाये सहृदयाः निजाशीर्भिः कुर्युः सफलवचसं मां करुणया। शङ्कारूपेण मच्चित्तं पङ्कीकृतमभूद्यया किङ्करीयस्य सा माया शङ्कराचार्यमाश्रये। प्रह्लादवरदो देवो यो नृसिंहः परो हरिः नृसिंहोपासकं नित्यं तन्नृसिंहगुरुं भजे। श्रीसच्चिदानन्दशिवाभिनव्य नृसिंहभारत्यभिधान्यतीन्द्रान् विद्यानिधीन् मन्त्रनिधीन् सदात्मनिष्ठान् भजे मानवशम्भुरूपान् सदात्मध्याननिरतं विषयेभ्यः पराङ्मुखं नौमि शास्त्रेषु निष्णातं चन्द्रशेखरभारतीं विवेकिनं महाप्रज्ञं धैर्यौदार्यक्षमानिधिं सदाभिनवपूर्वं तं विद्यातीर्थगुरुं भजे। अज्ञानाञ्जाह्नवीतीर्थं विद्यातीर्थं विवेकिनां सर्वेषां सुखदं तीर्थं भारतीतीर्थमाश्रये। विद्याविनयसम्पन्नं वीतरागं विवेकिनं वन्दे वेदान्ततत्त्वज्ञं विधुशेखरभारतीम्। अविद्यारण्यकान्तारे भ्रमतां प्राणिनां सदा विद्यामार्गोपदेष्टारं विद्यारण्यगुरुं श्रये। शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। With namaskarams to the Pada Padmas of Ubhay Jagat Gurus, to Sharadamba, and with namaskarams to all of you. Yesterday we left off Guru Charitra, Shankara Charitra, with him reaching Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya and studying from Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya. So he had finished his studies there, and now Govinda Bhagavat Padacharya directed Bhagavat Pada to go to Kashi. So today and tomorrow, so today's portion, Sargas 6 and 7, and tomorrow's portion, Sargas 8, 9 and 10. These two portions, or these Sargas, are pretty heavy on Vedantic concepts. They deal with a lot of Vadas that Acharya has done, especially with Mandana Mishra. There are certain incidents that happen that are very Vedantic in nature and that propelled Acharya to say certain things and do certain things. So for that reason, a lot of the subject matter we'll be covering today and tomorrow will have almost as much Vedanta as it will Guru Charitra. But the thing we need to keep in mind is this is one of the goals that Vidyaranya Swami had in mind when he wrote Shankara Digvijaya, right? He said, Nana Prashnottarahi Ramya. We talked about this on the first day, that his goal in this is not just to convey Bhagavad Pada's life, but also to convey Bhagavad Pada's teachings. And one of the way he does that is by giving narratives to things. So he can just say that Bhagavad Pada defeated Mandana Mishra, but instead he talks about what the arguments from both sides were. So that is just something for us to keep in mind going forward. So as he was studying with Govinda Bhagavat Pada, he became a Paramahamsa. So we hear this word Paramahamsa a lot, right? So Paramahamsa Parivrajaka Varya is how the Birudavali starts of our Jagat Gurus. So here Vidyaranya Swami gives a very nice nirvachana, a very nice definition of why Bhagavat Pada was a Paramahamsa. Kshiram Brahma Jagatchanira Mubhayam Tadyogam Abhyagatam Durbhedan Tvitaretharam Chirataram Durbhedam Tvitareteran Chirataram Samyak Vibhakti Kritam Yena Shesha Vishesha Dosha Yena Shesha Vishesha Dosha Laharim Ashe Dushim Shemushim Soyam Shilavatam Punati Paramaha Hamso Dvija Hamso Soyam Shilavatam Punati Paramo Hamso Dvijatyagrani is the definition he gives. So Hamsa, the swan, is in Kavya Maryada, so in poetic license, it is given this ability to be able to separate milk from water. So this is quite a common trope in our literature. So one who is able to differentiate Brahman from this world, who has that Viveka, Nitya Nitya Vastu Viveka, or Brahma Jagat Viveka, is called a Paramahamsa. But here in this shloka, Vidyaranya Swami brings out the nature of the merging of Brahman and Jagat, right? So because Brahman and Jagat are so tightly intertwined, it is hard to differentiate them. Otherwise, we all would have also become Paramahamsas, right? So he says, Kshiram Brahma. Brahman is like milk. Jagatcha Neeram. So the world, Jagat is like water. Notice, milk is greater than water, right? Milk is better. So Brahman is the Shrestha of these two. So Kshiram, Brahman is like milk. And water, Neeram. So this Jagat is like water. And Tad Yogam, the mixing of those two is Durbhedam. It is very hard to differentiate the two. And Itare Taram. So this is called, in Shastra, this is called Parasparadhyasa or Anyonyadhyasa. So Adhyasa is superimposition. This is a very important part of Advaita. So upon the rope, snakeness is imposed, right? So when you see the rope and you think it is a snake, so Adhyasa of Sarpatva happens on the Rajju. So you impose snakeness upon the rope. So Atasmin Tad Buddhi is the definition of Adhyasa. So thinking that something is that which it is not. So thinking X is Y. So or thinking X is not X is the proper definition. Thinking X is something other than X is the definition of Adhyasa. So the interesting nature about Brahman and Jagat is it is Parasparadhyasa. So taking the Brahma Jagat Bheda, so assuming that we're not just taking the Jagat to be a Vivarta of Brahman, when we're just discussing the two qualities. So what are the qualities of Brahman? Satchidananda, Nitya, all of these things are Brahman's Lakshanas. Jagat Lakshanas is Gunatrayatmaka, Kshanika, so it is fleeting, it is impermanent. What we do though is we put this definition there and that definition here. So we say, I am fat, I am lean, I am old, I am young, I am smart, I am dull. So these I's, all of these I is actually what? Atman, Brahman. But what do we ascribe, the qualities we ascribe to it are those of the Jagat. So having Rupa Rasa Gandha, right, having Shabdasparsha, Rupa Rasa Gandha, all of these qualities that belong to the Jagat, we ascribe to I-ness or Atmanas. So this is one way Adhyasa. The other way Adhyasa is going is, we think that Asti, Bhati, Priyam Bhavati are the three qualities of Brahman. So Satchit Ananda, Asti, it exists, Bhati, it shines. So it is knowable, it is knowledge, and Priyam Bhavati, it is dear to us. These three things we are seeing in the world. We say the chair is, we don't say Brahman is. We say the table is, we don't say that Brahman is, or the table Brahman is. Right? In Priyam Bhavati, we say that my son is dear to me, my books are dear to me, or my wealth is dear to me. We don't say that Atma is dear to me. So the definition of Atma is put on the Jagat. The definition of Jagat is put on Atma. So in this way, Parasparadhyasa happens, which is why Brahman and Jagat are so hard to separate from one another. And Bhagavad-pada has made this Samyak Vibhakti Kritam. He has separated this very well. So therefore, Bhagavad-pada is called Paramahamsa. So because he is such a Paramahamsa, he got the approval of Govinda Bhagavad-padacharya to become a guru and start teaching other people. So he was directed to go to Kashi. And in Kashi, we have the coming of the first Shishya. So the first, we have, of course, the four Pradhana Shishyas, right? Padmapadacharya, Totakacharya, Sureshwaracharya, and Hastamalakacharya. So Padmapadacharya comes now. Mandana Mishra becomes Sureshwaracharya in the 8th Sarga, 8th and 9th Sargas. And in the 12th Sarga, when Acharya is in Sringeri and in other places, Hastamalaka and Totakacharya will come. But the first of these people to come is Padmapada. So Padmapada comes and does Sharanagati, says, I seek your refuge to cross this ocean of samsara. Here, though, there is a very beautiful shloka that Vidyaranya Swami wrote, that is written as Padmapadacharya pleading with Bhagavad-pada to take him as his Shishya. And the reason why I want to share the shloka with you all is because this corresponds, quite frankly, to a lot of the feelings that we have when we are in front of Jagat Gurus, or at least that I have experienced myself in front of Jagat Gurus. So the sentiments that come when a Shishya stands in front of a Guru that they desperately want to learn from, that they desperately want to find refuge in. I thought this struck very close to home, and I thought I would share this shloka with you. Padmapadacharya says, "Apangai ruttungaihi अपाङ्गैरुत्तुङ्गैः अमृतझरभङ्गैः परगुरो शुचादूनं दीनं कलय दयया माम् अविमृशन् गुणं वा दोषं वा मम किमपि सञ्चिन्तयसि चेत् तदा कैवाश्लाघा निरवधि कृपा नीरधिरिति तदा कैवाश्लाघा तदा तदा का एव श्लाघा तदा कावा श्लाघा कैव श्लाघा निरवधि कृपा नीरधिरिति. So he says, Bhagavatpada Paraguru Mam Kalaya Shucha Deenam Dunam. So please look at me. I'm suffering. I am the tapana. I am burning just to get your glance. What kind of your glance? Apangaihi. Uttungai Ramrita Jhari Bhangai. Your glances which are like a flow of nectar. Please shower those glances upon me. And this is the part where I felt it kind of struck a bit close to home. So, Dayaya Mam Avimrishan. Avimrishan means, please do not debate or reason about whether this fellow is reasonable, whether it is appropriate to take him upon or not. Please don't go into any discussion about whether it is proper or not to look at me. Just take me immediately. I need immediate refuge at your feet. And then he says, Gunam va dosham va mama kimapi sanchintayasi chet. So the name Bhagavad that people have given to you is Niravadhi Kripa Niradhi. They say that you are an ocean of mercy that does not have banks. So an unbounded ocean of mercy. If you go into the dialectics of whether this person has a guna or dosha, and based on that, if you decide whether you will uplift me or not, is that not counterproductive to your own viruddha, to your own title of being an unlimited ocean of mercy? So please don't look at whether I am a great person or not. Please don't look at whether I have the necessary panditya or not. Please just understand that there is nothing more that I want right now other than to be gazed upon by you with daya, and please give me that daya. So quite frankly, when we go to Sringeri, when we're in the line, right, that is all of us want. We want Acharya just to look at us, just to lift one hand and say this, say everything will be okay. We go there and this happens when you look into Acharya's eyes, even from far away in the line. Even when you look into their eyes, some things start coming to our minds, right? I didn't do this properly, I didn't do that properly, there's this flaw in me, there's this flaw in me, there's that flaw in me. Will Acharya be mad at me? I really hope he isn't mad at me. All of this happens, and legs start shaking, body starts sweating. All of this happens. But at the end of the day, we need to count on their apara daya, that they are looking not at the panditya or the sthai of the shishya, but on whether they have shraddha or not, whether they are ardent or not, whether they are dharmika or not. So the same thing that Padmapada said to Jagadguru, I felt that that is something that still holds true today. And yeah, so that is Padmapada's story, the way he came. And Padmapada is a great Guru Bhakta, as we know. He is also a great Nrisimhopasaka, which comes in handy later on, we will see. The way he got the name Padmapada is, of course, a very popular story. So he was on the other side of the Ganga, and Bhagavatpada called him, and he said, "Come here." And his name then was Sanandana. So he called him, and without thinking where he was, without thinking of whether it was possible or not, he just started walking across the water. So Ganga Devi was very happy with him, and she put up lotuses under his steps, so that he wouldn't, of course, fall into the river. So because Padmas were set up to support his padas, he became Padma Pada. And he was very, very, very dear to Acharya. The bandha between Padmapadacharya and Bhagavatpada is the strongest emotionally, which is why when Bhagavatpada is in danger, or I don't know if we should say he's in danger, or when Bhagavatpada's mortal body is undergoing some trouble, it is always Padmapadacharya that is first to respond. His heart just tells him something is wrong. Same thing happened to the Kapalika. Later on, one person named Abhinava Gupta, I think his name is Abhinava Gupta, there's a mantrika that does a mantra prayoga on Bhagavad Pada. It is Padmapada that destroys that mantrika. So Padmapada has a very intense, fierce loyalty to Bhagavad Pada and a very deep emotional connection. And why was he dear to Acharya? This is something we need to keep in mind too, right? Sanitaram Sanitaram Itarashra Sanitaram Itarashhravato Lasan Niyamamat Sanitaram Itarashhravato Lasan Niyamam Udbhutamapya Sanandanaha Shruta Nija Shrutikopyabhavat Punaha Pipatishur Gahanartha Vivitsaya. So there are three qualities of Padmapada that Vidyaranya Swami has said here that made him dear to Bhagavad Pada. Bhagavad Pada did Bhashya Patha for him 3 times, it is said. Triravritya. So like in Chandogya, right? So there we have Navakritva Upadesha. So there 9 times Shvetaketu gets Upadesha from his father. But here, Triravritya, Trivritkritya. So Bhagavad Pada teaches Padmapada his Brahmasutra Bhashya 3 times out of such love for the student. Why was Padmapada such an object of affection for Bhagavad Pada? We see here. Sanitara Mitarashravato Lasan Niyamam Adbhutamapya. He followed an austere life. When the teacher sees that the student is giving up pleasures for the sake of a higher goal, that will endear the student a lot. So niyamas, following niyamas, being principled in following restraint, number 1. Shruta Nija Shrutikopi Abhavat. So he was studying the Shrutis. So whatever Vedas he was taught, whatever Veda Bhaga he was taught, he was studying it diligently. So another thing is we need to be studying the portion that is taught. If you go several times, I have had my Shastra gurus tell me that there were sometimes they would go to their teachers and they ask, did you study? No, then we'll do the same patha again. So it is expected that the student needs to keep up with the learning outside of class. You should not just come to class and go off and not do anything about it afterwards. So Padmapadacharya was very diligent about making sure that he was going through the pathas that had been taught, making sure that he was doing his best to understand. And the third quality, Gahanartha Vivitsaya Pipathishu Pathitum Ichchuhu. Vivitsaya Vettum Ichchaya Pathitum Ichchuhu. So although he was doing his study and understanding what Bhagavad Pada told him, he was eager and determined to learn even more deep meaning. So this is another thing. A student who is content with whatever the teacher tells him is a Madhyamadhikari. But the student who wants to learn even more, who has that drive, that fire in him to learn as much as he can get from the Guru, that is an Uttamadhikari. So these 3 qualities were present in Padmapadacharya. He followed niyamas, he followed restraint, he had an austere life. He made sure that he was doing avritti, chintana of the pathas that had been taught so far. He made sure that he was learning the pathas and practicing the pathas outside of class. Third, he had intense desire and enthusiasm to learn even deeper meanings. He was not satisfied with the learning he had. So in this way, Padmapadacharya had come and several other people had also come there. And Acharya is spending his time in Kashi at the feet of Varanasi Purapati, who is Vishwanatha. So once Acharya was going for his Madhyana Anhika. So his Madhyana Anhika, so the rites and rituals that need to be done in the afternoon. So this is what Acharyas go to so they give Darshana and Sringeri around 11 to 12. So when they get up to go, this is what they're going to do, the Madhyana Anhika. Right? So this is the perspective to put in. So when Acharya is going to Madhyana Anhika, on his way to Ganga, a Chandala came in the way. So this is a very famous encounter of Jagadguru and the Chandala. We shall talk about this in detail, but also be very delicate about it because there are things that need to be understood in minutiae. So Sontyajam Pathi Nirikshya Chaturbhir Bhishanaihi Shabhir Anudruta Marat Gacha Duramiti Tan Nijagada Prithyavacha Sacha Shankara Menam. So what happened? Shankara Bhagavad was going to Ganga. And this Chandala was Arat. He passed by Acharya very closely. So physical proximity was very close. Then he was accompanied, this Chandala was accompanied by Chaturbhir Bhishanaihi Shabhihi, 4 fearsome dogs. So, usually there are some dogs that were bred for hunting and things like that. Maybe it could have been those kinds of dogs, but he was with these 4 dogs. And Bhagavad Pada said, Durangacha, Durangacha. So why? Because sannyasis are not supposed to be touched by anyone, not just chandalas or brahmanas or vaishyas or shudras. We are not supposed to touch sannyasis, which is why Jagat Gurus don't go around touching people and giving hugs or whatnot. There are some people who are wearing kashaya, but they don't follow these rules of sannyasa. So that is not the case, right? Bhagavad Pada and the parampara that flows from him are all bastions of sampradaya. So sannyasis are just not supposed to touch anyone or anything for that matter. So when we do padabhivandana to sannyasis, we are not supposed to touch the feet. We are supposed to touch the ground in front of the feet. So because this Chandala was coming very close, Bhagavad Pada said, Apasara, go gacha duram, please move away, please move away. So then the Chandala stopped Bhagavad Pada and asked, and this is where we get Manisha Panchaka. So here I won't say I'm deviating from Digvijaya, Madhaviya Digvijaya, but here I am telling the shlokas that are associated with Manisha Panchaka just because I think it is more mainstream, right? So it will be easier for us to listen to it again. Pratyek, so the Chandala is saying, Pratyagvastuni nistaranga sahajanandavabodham budho viproyam shvapachoyamithyapi mahan koyam vibheda brahmahan kim gangambuni bimbitem baramano chandalavithi payaf purevantaramasti Kanjanapati mritkumbhayorvambare Kanjanaghate mritkumbhayorvambare. So here he says, Bhagavad Pada, in the Pratyag Vastu. So Pratyag Vastu means the inner Vastu, which is Atma. Nistaranga Sahajarandava Bodham Budho. So in that Atma Vastu, which is an ocean of Ananda and which is Nirvikara, Nistaranga, it is like an ocean without waves, it is not changing. And Pratyak, it is within, it does not relate to this body. So when the Atma Padartha does not relate to the body and is Nirvikara and is of the nature of Ananda, then Viproyam Shvapachoyam. So what is the difference then between a sannyasi, a brahmana, or a chandala, or a vaishya, or a man, or a woman? What is the difference in these? If Atma is one and if Atma is everything, then why are you making these differences? Why are you saying I am a sannyasi, you cannot touch me, you need to move to the side? Why? And then he gives an example. Kim Gangambuni Bimbitembaramano Chandala Vithi Payaf Purevantaramasti. So if the sun is reflected in Ganga's water, or if it is reflected in the glass, in the drinking glass of a Chandala, is there any difference in the sun? So if the sun is reflected in Ganga's water, or if it is reflected in the drinking glass of a Chandala, is there any difference in the sun? Or Kanjana Ghati Mritkumbhayorvambare, if the Akasha is one, but the Akasha contained within a golden pot and contained within a mud pot, is there any difference in the Akasha? Is not Akasha one? So this is one question. Second question, he says, okay, so one question is there any difference at all? Why are you making a difference? Number two, you told me to go away. You said, Duram Gacha, go, please move away. So what are you asking to move away? Annamaya Dannamayam Athava Chaitanyameva Chaitanyat Yativara Durikartvam Vanchasi Kim Gacha Gacheti Kim Bruhi Gacha Gacheti. So do you want the Annamaya Sharira, so the Sthula Sharira, the gross body? Do you want the gross body to move away, my gross body to move away from your gross body? Do you want my Annamaya Sharira to go away from your Annamaya Sharira? Or Athava Chaitanyameva Chaitanyat, do you want my Chaitanya to go away from your Chaitanya? Please tell me, what do you want? In the question itself, the answer is embedded, quite frankly. On first glance, it seems like a very deep question, but if you look more closely at the wording of the question, the answer is very simple. See, in the first question, when he says, why are you making a difference? What is the example he gave, this Chandala gave? So Ganga, so the sun reflected in Ganga water and sun reflected in Chandala water, in a Chandala's drinking water. Let's just say drinking water for now. So the sun reflected in Ganga's water and the sun reflected in drinking water. Is there a difference in the sun? Nobody said there is a difference in the sun, but you yourself are referring to Ganga's water separately and the drinking water separately, meaning that in asking the question itself, you are recognizing that there is a difference between Ganga water and drinking water. So the difference is not being made in Atma. The difference is being made in the Upadhi. So what these questions are testing, and this is exactly what it is, this Chandala is in a position to test Bhagavatpada's understanding. So the test is whether Bhagavatpada is able to make the difference between Upadhi Bheda and Advaita. So can you reconcile the Vyavahara Dvaita that we go through and Advaita? Because Advaita says that all is one, and no doubt all is one. But if all is one, then what is the difference between Shakahara and Mamsahara, right? If all is one, what is the difference whether you eat meat or vegetables? What is the difference whether you are a man or a woman, right? So what is the difference whether you are a student or a teacher? This is in Shatadushani. So in the book that Vedanta Deshika wrote doing Khandana of Advaita Sampradaya, and also in Ramanujacharya's criticizing of Bhagavatpada's Gita Bhashya, the first thing they say is, if Advaita is true, then the Arambhaniyatva of the Shastra itself becomes null. Because the teacher and student are one. If Sarvam is Atma, if you say Ekameva Dvitiyam Brahma, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, and if everything is Brahman and everything is Atma, then who is the teacher and who is the student? And what is the need for one to be teaching and one to be taught? So if Advaita is true, then actually Vedanta itself becomes void. Therefore, Advaita is not true. Is the Akshepa that they did. So if we don't understand the difference between Vyavahara and Paramartha, this problem comes about. So the Chaitanya within the student and the teacher is the same. But the upadhi of a teacher and the upadhi of a student to conduct Vyavahara, to conduct Lokika transactions, needs to be different. You cannot say that the teacher and the student are the same. You cannot say that a man and a woman are the same. You cannot say that a child and an old man are the same. Right? There are differences in bodies, there are differences in vessels that call for certain differences. There is a reason why we stand for pregnant women on a bus, right? We cannot say, I am Chaitanya, you are Chaitanya, I will stay sitting, you stand up. There's a reason why young people do namaskara to elders. We cannot say, we are one, you do namaskara to me. That is wrong. That is very much wrong. So this is what he is testing. So although the sun reflected in the Ganga and in drinking water is the same, the drinking water and Ganga water are different. The upadhi, so the vessel or the adhikarana, that the adhikarana is not the right word here because Atma is adhikarana. The bimbadhara, the pratibhimbadhara is where the difference is coming. It is not in the bimbabhuta, it is in the pratibhimbadhara. So it is not the reflected object that is being differentiated here, but it is the surface of reflection that is being differentiated here. So then there is no question as to why a sannyasi is being differentiated from a brahmachari is being differentiated from a grihastha, because it is the upadhi that is a brahmachari or a sannyasa or a sannyasi, and it is the shastra that applies to the upadhi. Who can do shastra to atma? So this is the thing that needs to be understood. And going from that same thing, so the annamayat annamayam. So do you want my sthula sharira to go away from your sthula sharira, or do you want my chaitanya to go away from your chaitanya? This question also is very simple to answer. No one can make chaitanya go away from chaitanya, right? So when we say please move away, it is very obviously the body that we are asking to move away. So no one will say please move your atma away from my atma, because atma is one and sarvavyapi, right? It is vibhu. Vibhu means sarva murtadravi sanyogi. So it is all pervasive. It is sarvagata, right? So that is why it is likened with akasha. So because atma is all pervasive, you cannot ask it to move away. It is very obviously the body, because the shuchi and ashuchi, hrasva, dirgha, the adhyasa that we talked about earlier, the qualities of the jagat will be there in the upadhi, because the upadhi is part of the jagat. So being tall, short, fat, thin, old, young, happy, sad, all of these apply to the upadhi. So let us say that let us say my father is there and he needs to do devatarchana. I have not taken bath yet. I cannot say my sharira is made up of anna, your sharira is made up of anna, so I can touch you. Because my father needs to do puja, there's a certain level of shuchi that is needed, right? So you do snana, you do pavitrova, you do achamana, and then you are shuchi to do puja. So because within the annamaya shariras, there are levels of purification and there are rules about who can touch whom, right? So as I said, sannyasis are not supposed to be touched by anyone. So the annamaya sharira of a sannyasi has different rules than the annamaya sharira of a grahastha or the annamaya sharira of a brahmachari. So it is very much the annamaya sharira that we are asking to move away. So this is the explanation of what the proper answers to the questions are. And Bhagavad Pada says this. But the response that Bhagavad-pada gives is, if it was someone like us, we would sit there and start an argument, right? The ahankara would come into play here. But Bhagavad-pada does not have ahankara because he does not have dehabhimana. So Bhagavad-pada instead recognizes that the person on the other end is testing him. The person on the other hand is in fact a Brahmavid. He knows what he is talking about. He is cognizant of the difference between Brahman and the world. He is cognizant of the nature of Brahman. So Bhagavad-pada immediately, with the utmost respect and reverence towards the Chandala, does namaskara to him and tells Manisha Panchaka here. Manisha means jnana. So Manisha is so specifically Manisha is usually used, it is not used for everyday buddhi, it is used specifically for paramartha buddhi. So buddhi as it relates to jnana. So this Manisha Panchaka consists of 5 shlokas. The refrain in the first 2 shlokas is Chandalostu Satudvijostu Gururityesha Manisha Mama. So he who knows Atman, he can be a Chandala, he can be a Brahmana, he can be young, he can be old, he can be man, he can be male, they can be female, it doesn't make a difference. Whoever knows Brahman is Pujaniya to me, is Vandaniya to me, because there is this one dictum in Shastra. So when someone gets jnana, we say that their sanchita papa becomes burnt, right? Their sanchita papa does not apply, their sanchita karma does not apply to them anymore. So there they say, Suhradas Sadhukrityam. And so the people that worship that Brahmajnani will receive his Purakrita Punyas. The people that incur enmity with him will get his papas. So anyone who is a Brahmajnani, it is our duty, it is in our best interest to have the utmost reverence towards them. And in this Manisha Panchaka, in these 5 shlokas, the first 4 shlokas, each is a summary of the Mahavakya. So the 4 Mahavakyas that we talked about yesterday. So the what is that? Prajnanam Brahma. So the Swarupa, so the Lakshana Vakya, which is from Rigveda, I am Prajnanam Brahma. And the Anubhava Vakya, Aham Brahmasmi from Rigveda, from Yajurveda. Then Tattvamasi, the Upadesha Vakya from Samaveda, and Ayamatma Brahma, the Sakshatkara Vakya from Atharva Veda. So these 4 Mahavakyas, each shloka is an explanation of each Mahavakya. So for example, one of the nice shlokas in this is Ya Teryangnara Devata Bhiramithyanta Sphuta Grihyate Yad Bhasa Hridayakshideha Vishayaha Bhanti Svato Chetanaha Tam Bhasyai Pihitarka Mandalevam Spurtin Sada Bhavayan Yogi Nirvritamanasohi Guruhu Ityesha Manisha Mama. Esha Manisha Mama. This is my resolution. What? So that Spurti meaning Chaitanya. So that Chaitanya which Tiryak Nara Devata Bhihi Aham Iti Antasputa Grihyate. So that Chaitanya which is experienced as I by all walks of life. So Tiryak, Jantus, Nara, humans, Devatas, gods. So Tiryak, Tamoguna Pradhanas, they are beings who are very more dull, right? So Tiryak are animals. So Go Mahishavayaha, Pashavaha, Tiryanchaha. So those, and then Nara, so people like us, people in the human realm of the world, and then Devata, so Sattvic beings. So for regardless of who these people are, so basically regardless of the level of jnana or the level of sophistication that the upadhi has, for all of them, the ahamakarika vritti is the same. The ahamakarika jnana is the same. So the animal feels the same sense of I that the human feels, that the devata feels. To them, I is the same. That I that is throbbing within them is Atma. Yad bhasa hridayakshadeha vishayaha bhanti swataha achetanaha. So due to the prakasha of which, due to the light of which, hridaya, akshi, deha vishayaha, hridaya, the antahkarana, akshi, the indriyas, deha, the sthula sharira. They achetanaha, although they are all jada, right? So if there is no prana in this thing it is an inert lump of clay. It is a lump of flesh. It does not have any consciousness of its own. But due to the consciousness of which all of these are bhanti, they are vishayaha bhavanti, buddhehi vishayi bhavanti, vishayi kritaha, right? So this jada appendage, this what is the right word, this inert machinery is put into action by samparka, by contact, due to which thing, that atma. So tam bhasyaiv pihitarka mandala nibham. The interesting thing though is this Atma, although it is making this machinery shine, is being concealed by this very machinery. That is why they are called pancha koshas. So a kosha is a sheath. So the reason why Shastra says that the Annamaya kosha, Pranamaya kosha, Manomaya kosha are called koshas is koshavad achadana katvacha. So because it layers the Atma, it conceals the Atma. It is like a sheath. So the way the sheath conceals a sword, in the same way these pancha koshas, these 5 sheaths, these 5 layers, conceal the Atma inside. The strange thing is the only reason that these layers exist are because of Atma. The only reason they are Vishaya, they are objects of knowledge, are because of Atma. But yet they are the ones that are concealing Atma. The example, the Upamana, the simile that Bhagavad Pada gives is Pihitarka Mandala Nibham. So clouds, the cloud, I guess the sun, right? So clouds will cover the sun. So we will not see the sun. The sun will not be visible to us because of clouds. But how are we able to see the clouds? If the sun does not shine, you won't see anything, period. So the clouds are only visible due to sunlight. But we cannot see the sun because the cloud has covered it. So bhasya is that which is the object of illumination. So the illuminator is being concealed by the object of illumination. So that Atma Padartha. So yogi nivritta manasaha tam spurtim bhavayan. So the yogi, the jnani, that is able to visualize, that is able to conceive of, that is able to attain union with that Atma Padartha, with that Brahma Padartha, whoever he be. He is my guru and I do namaskara to him. So that is the level of reverence that Bhagavad Pada showed to him. So Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati. So therefore, I am doing namaskara to you. And Bhagavad Pada readily agreed. What you said is right. Satyameva bhavata yadidanim pratyavadi tanubhrit pravara etat. Acharya called that Chandala Tanubhrit Pravara, the greatest of all living beings, because he is a Brahmajnani. It doesn't matter whether they're male, female, young, old, Brahmachari, Grahastha, Brahmana, Kshat, it doesn't matter who they are. If they are a Brahmajnani, they are automatically at the highest end of respect that they are deserving of. See, already if they are following Swadharma, right? Ye asmachreyagam so brahmana adhayarite karma vichikitsa vritta vichikitsa vasyat ye tatra brahmana asam marishinaha yukta yukta aluksha dharmaka masyuh yatha te tatra varteran tatha tatra vartethaha is what they are telling us in normal matters of dharma itself. So if you ever have karma vichikitsa or vritta vichikitsa, if you ever doubting in matters of karma or in terms of conduct, what do you need to do? You need to look at Brahmana. So Brahmana, right? Brahmajanati Brahmana. Look at learned people. So you can take Brahma here to be Veda. So people who know Vedika Sampradaya properly, we can also take it to be Brahman. So Brahmanaha, Alukshaha, Dharmakamaha Syo. So those who are without mental impurities like Irshya, Asuya, things like that. So already if they are Dharmajnas, we are giving them so much respect. Now what more if they are Brahmajnanis, how much more respect should they get? So that's, you are a person of that caliber, therefore you are Vandaniya to me. So as soon as Acharya did Namaskara, the Chandala disappeared and Shiva appeared in his place. The 4 dogs became the 4 Vedas. So it was actually Shiva who was testing Bhagavad Pada until now. In my opinion, the story does not lose any of its value if it's a Chandala, because as I said, even if the person that had asked Bhagavad Pada was a normal human Chandala, if he had the Brahmajnana, then he is very much deserving of respect. So I don't think the story changes whether the Chandala becomes Shiva or not, but the Chandala is Shiva, and Shiva does anugraha to Shankaracharya, and there Shankaracharya, the Vidyaranya Swami, puts a very beautiful shloka, as said by Shankaracharya, as a namaskaram to Shiva. So he compares Shiva as Atma to a mani, to a gem. Yada lokad antar bahirapicha loko vitimiraha na manjusha yasya trijagati na shano na chakhanihi yatante chaikantam rahasi yatayo yat pranayinaha namastasmai swasmai nikhila nigamottam samanaye. So nikhila nigama uttam samanaye namaha. Namaskaram to the crown jewel of all Vedas. So Namaskaram basically, so the crown jewel of all Vedas is what? The Tatparya of Upanishads. So Namaskaram to you who is the Atma, who is the crown jewel of all Upanishads. Now he called it a jewel. He called it a gemstone. So gems have certain properties, and he says this is a very interesting gem because it is not conforming with the usual properties of a gem. So in the olden days, there used to be gems that would shine. So gems will get rid of bahistamas, bahirtamas. So bahiratamas. So gems, when they shine, they can only get rid of tamas, that is outside, darkness that is outside. Tamas within is ajnana. So that gems cannot get rid of the antaratamas. But this gem, so the gem of Shiva, which is Atma Padartha, the gem, this gem is getting rid of not just the outer tamas, outer darkness, but also inner darkness. How is Shiva getting rid of the outer tamas? Nema vidyuto bhati kutoyam agnihi natatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kutoyam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati jyotim shyatyan nakshatra jwalanadin yanukrama jwalanti tejasa yasya tam jwalantan namamyam. So even actually Abhinav Vidyatirtha Swami, talking about the word jwalat in the Narasimha mantra, talks about this nature of Atma. Tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam. Surya, the beings that are responsible for getting rid of the outer tamas, so just darkness in general, Surya, Chandra, Agni. So tameva bhantam anubhati, jwalanti terasa yasya, they are all shining with that Atma's light. So whether it be bahiratamas or antaratamas, it is going away because of this mani called Shiva. Another thing, na manjusha yasya, there is no box that this gem fits in. Na shanaha. Shana is, we talked about this briefly yesterday, but shana is a whetstone. That is the right word. So it is a stone that is used to shine gems and refine them. And nacha khani. Khani is a mine. A mine. So there is no box. There is no petika. There is no pette. There is no box that can house this gem. There is no whetstone that can refine this gem, and there is no mine that this gem came from. So all of these, of course, will be there for gemstones, right? You can put them, you can store them in a box. They will be refined, right? So it's called a whetstone, WHET, because they will fine it to make it into a certain shape. They will cut it into a certain shape. And khani, obviously, all gems will be drawn from some ore or some mine or the other. But if we're taking this Atma Padartha now, Manjusha is what? The place where a gem comes to rest. So Atma has no Anta. So there is no Manjusha. Na Shana. So Shana is what? It is the whetstone allows the gem to be available to be staying. So Sthiti, Madhya. And Khani. Khani is where the gem is born. The mine is where the gem is born. So for Shiva, obviously there is no birthplace. So by saying this gem does not have a box to be put in, it does not have a whetstone, and it does not have a mine that it came from, what he's saying is this is Adi Madhyanta Rahita. Right? We have in that the song Marakata Mani Vaichala, Adi Madhyanta Rahita Vaibhavananta Kalyana Guna. Right? They say Utukkadu says there says in that song. Adi Madhyanta Rahita. So that nature of Bhagavan is being brought in. Namaha Tasmai. So therefore Namaskaram to Tat, the Lakshyartha of Tatpada. Swasmai, Lakshyartha of Tvampada or Aham or Asmat Pratyaya. So what these mean, what these Lakshyarthas are, we will see in the debate with Mandana Mishra, because the Vakyartha of Tattvamasi comes there. So we will see that in detail there. But Namaskaram to Shiva, who is the Atma Padartha, who is of this wonderful nature. So he does Namaskaram to Shiva. Shiva is very happy, and Shiva gives him the green flag, the green light to go ahead and write Bhashyas. So Bhagavad Pada with Vishwanatha's Prasada goes to Badari to write his Prasthanatrayi Bhashyas, which are the crowning Bhashyas of all Vedanta literature. So first of all, Vedanta itself, Vedanto Nama, Darshaneshu Darshaniyatamam Darshanam Vedanta Darshanam, says Shastra. So of all the darshanas, the most beautiful of them is the Vedanta Darshana. So within this, there are three main texts that are called prasthanas. Prasthana means a step. So there is a sutra called Karanadhikarana Yoscha. So when we tell the meaning for prasthana, so either it can be taken either as a karana, namely an instrument, or adhikarana. So the platform on which something happens. So in Karanartha, you take it pratishtante viharante asmin jnaninaha. So jnanis are rooted in this, they are fixed in this, they do vihara in this. So that is one meaning. First of all, actually, I should say what these three prasthanas are. So Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Sutras, and Upanishads are the three prasthanas. So the Karanartha is pratishtante. The Karanartha is prasthiyate anena. It is the journey is made with this, which is why actually prasthanas are steps, right? Because you go make a journey upstairs via the means of steps. So prasthiyate anena iti prasthanam. So due to this, journey is made possible. So the journey from ajnana to jnana, asatoma sat, tamasoma jyotihi, right? So asatoma satgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityurma amritangamaya. This travel, right? This ayana means a marga, a path, right? So nanyaf pantha vidyate yanaya. There is no other path, right? There is no other path for this journey, right? So this path, the concept of this being a path to get from jnana to jnana, these prasthanas are the path that leads you from the start to the finish. The other meaning, the adhikaranartha is pratishtante viharanti jnaninaha asmin. So jnanis revel, they delight in this, right? So Upanishads or Brahma Sutras, these are the summation of the Brahma Anubhava that jnanis go through. So therefore they revel in this. So Karanadhikarana Yasha is the sutra that gives the meanings for this word prasthana. So these three are the Upanishads, Brahma Sutras, and Gita. So Upanishad prasthana is called Shruti prasthana. Brahma Sutra is called Sutra prasthana. Bhagavad Gita is called Smriti prasthana. So obviously Vedas are Apurushayas, Upanishads are Apurushayas, they're not born of humans. These are the realizations of Maharshis through tapas. Then because they say, right, Naiko Shrutayo vibhinnaha naiko risharyasya matam pramanam. They say our sampradayas are very confusing because Shrutayo vibhinnaha. Several different Vedavakyas will say several different things. And naiko risharyasya matam pramanam. There is several rishis also seem to present conflicting outlooks. Actually, it is this very Vidyaranya himself who writes a small text at the end of Sarva Siddhanta Sangraha or Siddhanta Mata Sangraha. It is called Prasthana Bheda, and he talks about the different matas, and in the end he says, it is not that these different, some acharyas were right and some acharyas were wrong. To help different adhikaris, to help different students who might have different affinities, they wrote these in different ways. We cannot doubt the jnana of people like Kanada or Kapila Maharshi. Kanada Maharshi, Kapila Maharshi, Gautama Maharshi. So there are several Vedavakyas that at times appear to be conflicting. There are several things that are said there. So to resolve all of those, Chakara Brahma Sutra and Bhagavan Badarayana. So Badarayana Maharshi wrote the Brahma Sutras. So they do Samanvaya. So each section takes up, each Adhikarana will take a different section of Upanishads and do Samanvaya of that. So it starts from Athato Brahma Jignasa. The first 4 sutras are called Chatussutri. So Athato Dharma Jignasa, all of these, right? Shastriya Nitya, these four, the first 4 sutras are honestly the most debated sutras and the ones that have the lengthiest bhashyas on them. So from there up to Anavritta Shabdat, which is the last of the sutras, Chatvarastatra Chadhyayaha. So there are 4 adhyayas: the Samanvayadhyaya, Avirodhadhyaya, Sadhanadhyaya, and Phaladhyaya. Each adhyaya is separated into 4 padas, and altogether there are 192 adhikaranas and upwards of 555, right? 555 sutras that are encompassed in this text. So the bhashya that Bhagavad Pada wrote for these Brahma Sutras is without a doubt the greatest scholarly text that he wrote. So yesterday I covered my tracks when I said that Kanakadhara was the most beautiful stotra that Bhagavad Pada wrote, and then I said it is not for me to judge what is the most beautiful. But here I can say confidently that this is the greatest scholarly work that Bhagavad Pada penned, because not just me but several scholars, including the Jagadgurus, have said that the level of the Shastra Pandityotkarsha, the level of scholarly excellence that Bhagavad Pada shows in these Brahma Sutras is not available anywhere else, not forget about Advaita, but in other matas and other darshanas as well. And especially the Adhyasa Bhashya. Adhyasa Bhashya is the Bhashya in which Bhagavad Pada puts forth the concept of Adhyasa that we've been talking about, this concept of superimposition that happens, which causes Brahman to appear as if something else. So this Adhyasa Bhashya is actually not that long. It is no more than a page and a half, 2 pages. But it is such a brilliant piece of work that it sets up the basis for the rest of the Brahmasutra Bhashya to be done in the Advaitic mode. So in bringing out Badarayana Maharshi's true intentions, Bhagavad Pada does an incredible job, and the shaili, the style that he uses is called Prasanna Gambhira. So whether you understand it or not, what my Vedanta teacher actually told me is, Bhagavad Pada's Brahmasutra Bhashya, whether you understand it or not, it is very nice just to do Parayana. So people do Parayana of the Bhashya itself. It is very nice to just read the way the language flows, the way the sentences flow is very beautiful. But so it's prasanna, but at the same time it is gambhira, it is deep. So if you actually stop to think about the meaning and try to understand the logical intricacies, there is a lot of subject material there, and it is obviously there's a reason why if you say I've studied Brahma Sutras with Shankara Bhashya, you have gone very far in Vedanta. So prasanna gambhira is the word that Sureshwaracharya uses and Padmapadacharya uses, especially Padmapada in his Panchapadika. He uses this to describe Bhagavad Pada's style. And not just these Brahma Sutras, Tato Mahabharata Sarabhuta Savyakarod Bhagavatishcha Gita. So Bhagavad Gita also he wrote. Bhagavad Gita Bhashya is written in a slightly different mode. So when doing Vyakhyana for the actual shlokas itself, Bhagavad Pada does it like a Pratipadartha. So if it's like Partha, he'll write Pratha Sutaha Arjunaha. But the where the and of course if the shloka is Vyakhya Sapeksha, he will of course do the necessary explanation there. But the meat of the vichara in Gita Bhashya happens at the beginnings of Adhikaranas, the beginnings of Adhyayas, and the ends of Adhyayas. So when a section or an idea or a clump of shlokas is trying to convey a particular topic, he will do vichara of that topic itself. So ahatya, he will do the vichara of that topic in the beginning or in the end. So Gita Bhashya flows in a slightly different mode than the Brahmasutra Bhashya. And also Sanat Sujatiyam Asatsuram Tato Nrsimhasya Tapaniyam. So Dashopanishad Bhashya, then Sanat Sujatiya Bhashya. So after Vidura Niti happens, after Vidura instructs Dhritarashtra in Mahabharata about Dharmartha Kamas, he asks Sanat Sujata, so one of the Sana Chatushtaya, so Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanat Sujata, Sanat Kumara. So of those 4, he calls upon Sanat Sujata to teach about moksha and about the moksha purushartha, and Bhagavad Pada wrote a bhashya for that, which is also very beautiful. And he also wrote a bhashya for the Purva Bhaga of the Nrisimha Tapaniya Upanishad. So these Tapaniya Upanishads, several Tapaniya Upanishads have come. Rama Tapaniya Upanishad, Gopala Tapaniya Upanishad, Hayagriva. So there's a lot. Usually these Tapaniya Upanishads have to do with Upasana. But it is a fixed opinion that Nrisimha Tapaniya is the greatest of all of these because it melds Upasana with Jnana the most. So the way that Nrisimha Tapaniya Upanishad works is the first half is devoted to Narasimha Tantra and how it becomes Parabrahman. The second half is actually almost completely devoted to identifying every single word of the Narasimha mantra with Brahman. And Bhagavad Pada does that. So actually he says the word Nrisimha itself does not refers primarily to Nirguna Brahma and only secondarily to a deity that had to Ishvara with the face of a lion and the body of a man. So he says Nragato. So prapti, that which has prapti is Nra. So Jiva, right? The Jiva is the one that has Gati, the Punya Papa. And Simha, so Simha comes from the word Himsa. So Hinasti iti Simha. That which does Himsa, that which destroys, removes Ajnana is Simha. So Simha refers to Ishvara. So the Layakaraka Ishvara or Jnana Pradata Ishvara. So Nra being Jiva, Simha being Ishvara, Nrisimha becomes Jiva Brahma Aikya. Jiva Ishvara Aikya becomes Brahman. And for example, the first word of the mantra is Ugra. So Udgiratyakilam Lokam, Udgiranang Rasate Swayam. So Ugra means not just one who is fierce, but one who is fierce towards samsara. Or another meaning is one who throws up this world and then swallows it back. So one from whom the world comes and swallows back. So in this way, he explains this Nrisimha mantra and this Nrisimha upasana vidya, because these vidyas are not just ways for us to get the grace of a deity. At least the Narasimha upasana krama, just like Shri Vidya is not just meant to do upasana of Devi, but it is meant to do it is meant to be a conduit from Saguneshwara to Nirguna Brahman. So in the same way, the Narasimha upasana is also a very efficacious upasana, and that is why Bhagavad Pada did Narasimha upasana. In Bhagavad Pada's Ashtottara Shatanamavali, you have Narasimha Bhakta, Yanamaha, and Narasimha protected Bhagavad Pada in several circumstances, as we'll see. So because Bhagavad Pada was well versed in this upasana parampara of Narasimha, he chose the Nrisimha Tapaniya Upanishad to do a bhashya and show how the Narasimha Upasana Vidya is in fact Brahma Vidya itself. And interestingly, so it is split into two halves, as I said. Bhagavad Pada wrote for the Purva Tapaniya Upanishad, and Vidyaranya Swami himself wrote for the Uttara Tapaniya Upanishad. So he starts Nirasta Nikhilanartha Paramananda Rupane Nrisimhaya Namaskurma Sarvadhivritti Sakshine is the way that Vidyaranya Swami starts. So actually the Mangalacharana he does is Namaskaram to Narasimha, who is devoid of all anarthas and is of the nature of Satchidananda and is the Sakshi of all the thoughts. So here also Vidyaranya is showing even in his Mangalacharana, Vidyaranya Swami is showing even in his Mangalacharana that then Narasimha we are discussing is primarily Brahman, and then only some other deity, a deity with the form of a Simhamukha. So in this way, he also did Nrisimha Tapaniya Bhashya. The reason why I spoke so much about it was I have had the fortune of of learning the meaning of one or two vakyas in Nrisimha Tapaniya Upanishad from Sannidhanam Varu. He told me to read it and explain one or two things from me, which is why I like the text a lot. And Narasimha Swami is also my Ishtadevata, which is why I've spoken so much about Nrisimha Tapaniya Upanishad. But we will see Narasimha in much greater detail later on. So a teaser trailer for what is to come in the future. So in this way, he wrote lots of bhashyas detailing the nature, and of course, this is Atma Vidya. So the main focus is the nature of Atma. So in one shloka, Vidyaranya Swami shows how the Atma is viewed in different ways in different darshanas, and how Shankaracharya corrected them and brought it to a very high status. So as I said, this Digvijaya is not just a means for us to say Acharya wrote X, Y, and Z and move on, but Vidyaranya Swami takes the opportunity to not just tell us what Acharya wrote, but the purport of what he taught. So when talking about the nature of Atma, he writes, Charvakair nihnutah prak Charvakair nihnutah prak Balibhirata mrisha Rupa Masadya Gupta Karnadair ha Niyojyo Vyarachi Balavata Krishya Kaumarilena Sankhira Krishya Hritva Malamapi Rachito Yah Pradhaneka Tantra Kritva Sarveshwaram Tam Vyatanuta Purusham Shankaram Shaha. So this Atma, so different darshanas, different modes of philosophy throughout the course of India's illustrious philosophical history, the likes of which are not found anywhere on this planet. Philosophy, when it comes to philosophy, India is Vishwaguru. No other civilization has done as much vichara, as much logical, constructive debate upon philosophy as Sanatana Dharma has. So he goes through the nature of Atma in all of these. So the Charvakas said that Atma did not even exist. So this Atma was denied by Charvakas. What did Charvakas say? Charuvak. Their words are very sweet to listen to. The Charvaka Siddhanta is very nicely summed up in one shloka. Yavat jivet sukham jivet. Ranam kritva ghritam pibet. Bhasmi bhutasya dehasya punaragamanam kutaha. So they say, as long as you live, take loans, skip paying them, drink ghee, be happy, enjoy ghritam pitva, ranam kritva ghritam pibet. Do loans and drink ghee. Personally, I am not opposed to drinking ghee. I love ghee, but the point there being is enjoy life, enjoy all the sense pleasures to the fullest. Why? Bhasmi bhutasya dehasya. Once this body becomes ash, so once this body is burnt, punaragamanam kutaha, it is not coming back. So basically, you get one shot at life. All that exists is the body. There is no Atma per se. So Guptaha Kanadaihi. So Rupamasadya Gupta Kanadaihi. So the Kanada, so the Tarkikas refuted these Charvakas and said, no, Atma does exist, but Jnana Adhikaranam Atma. We do not agree with this Adhikaranam part. So they say that Kanadas have the Atma, has both Kartritva and Bhoktritva. So Atma is both the Chodayita, so the inciter, the compeller of actions, and the Bhokta. So he is the Adhikarana of such emotions such as Sukha and Dukkha, the recipient of the phalas of the karma. So they say that Jnana Adhikaranam. So Atma is the store where Jnana exists. We do not agree. We say that Jnanam eva Atma. So this is a small difference between us and Tarkikas, us being Swapaksha, Vedantis. So although we don't agree with the Kanadas, what the Kanadas did was they protected this Atma from the Charvakas, because the Charvakas said, he does not exist, get rid of Atma. The Kanadas protected the nature of Atma. And then Kaumarilena, so Kumarila Bhatta's school. So basically Mimamsa, what did they do? They Niyojya, they made this Atma into a servant, because what does Mimamsa say, that the goal of the Jiva is to do karma as ordained by the Veda and thereby experience the karma phalas that are given by the Vedas. Right? So you do yajna, you go to Swarga. Swarga kamu yajeta. So do the yajna, go to Swarga, come back. So this Atma has also, here also he has Kartritva Bhoktritva. So he is the Yajamana here. So in the Mimamsa Mata, the Atma was pushed into a kind of servitude. So you have to be doing things. Balavata akrishya niyojya havyarachi. So Mimamsa is very nicely saying, it dragged his Atma, pushed him down and told him, you need to work. The way an a Yajamana, the way an employer, the boss will drag an employee that doesn't want to work and force him to work. In that way, Mimamsa dragged this Atma and forced it to work as as an instrument of karma, as the doer of performer and the recipient of karma and karma phala. And then along come the Sankhyas. So outside of Vedanta, Sankhya is the Sankhya philosophy of Kapila Maharshi is the most agreeable to us. So, which is why, interestingly enough, because they are the most agreeable to us, they're the ones that we refute the most. Because Sankhya Mata is the most close to the Vedanta Mata, they're the ones that we do Khandana of the most. The reason is that this is called Prathama Malla Nibarhana Nyaya. So if, let's say, there is a group of wrestlers, A, B, and C are wrestling. If B defeats C, it is enough that A defeats B. It is obvious that A will be stronger than C, right? It's like if X is greater than Y and Y is greater than Z, X must be greater than Z. So you do not have to check if X is greater by Y and X is greater with Z. If X is greater than Y, it follows that X will be greater than Z, right? So in that way, if the Sankhya Mata is competent to do Khandana of all the other Matas, so if Sankhya stands superior to all the other Matas, if Vedanta can just stand superior over Sankhya, it will stand that Vedanta is superior to all the other Matas as well, which is why Sankhyas are the Prathama Mallas for us. Prathama Malla Nibarhana Nyaya. They're the Pradhana Pratipakshis. But what did the Sankhya say about Atma now? So Sankhya, they split this world into three. So Purusha or Prakriti, Jagat, Jna. So this is what is called Padarthatraya. So Padarthatraya, Tattvatraya. Tattvatraya is the name that it is given, and Vishishtadvaitis and all borrow that same lexicon. So Tattvatraya is Prakriti and Jagat, which is born from Prakriti, and Jna, Purusha. So there are Chaturvimshati Tattvas, there are 24 Tattvas. So the Purusha being one, Prakriti being one, and then the Panchabhutas and Jnanendras, Karmendras, each are a different Tattva. But out of all of these, Purusha is what we are calling Atma. And they said Hritva Malam. So the Sankhyas, they got rid of the defects in Purusha. So they said, yeah, actually Purusha is not someone that is someone that is low or meanly or something like that, but he is in fact of a very high nature. But what did they do? Pradhana Ekatantraha Rachitaha, Pradhana Mahat Prakriti, these are all Paryaya Padas. They're actually Pradhana and Prakriti are Paryaya Padas. Prakriti is the Kartri. So karya karana kartrutve hetu prakriti ruchyate. Purusha sukha dukkhanam bhoktritve hetu ruchyate, right? So Gita says. So Prakriti is the one by whose play this world is running. Purusha is the sakshi to this. But what the Sankhya said was, Prakriti does, Purusha experiences. So Prakriti makes the world, the Purusha experiences Sukha and Dukkha. So what the Sankhyas did was they made him a sakshi. So they made him a witness, to which extent we agree. But they made him beholden, or they made his Sukha and Dukkha dependent on the play of Prakriti. So Prakriti, Paratantraha, is Atma there. But Bhagavad took this Atma and Krishna, he dragged this Atma away from all of these other philosophies and Sarveshwaratvam. He said, no, I am Atma Brahma, Tattvam Asi. So he made this Atma into Ishvara. So the way the sequence follows is, the Atma was about to be destroyed by Charvakas, but the Kanadas protected it. But then although the Kanadas protected the Atma's existence, the Mimamsakas made it into a servant. But although the Mimamsakas made it into a servant, the Sankhyas made it into a higher form of being, but still one that was subservient to Prakriti. And then Bhagavatpada rescued Atma from all of this and made Atma none other than Ishvara itself, Jiva Brahmaikya. So in this way, he had described several such beautiful topics in his bhashyas. He came back to Kashi. So all this happened in Badari. His writings happened in Badari. He came back to Kashi, and we'll talk about one more ghatta and we'll close for this day. He came back to Kashi and he's teaching his Brahmasutra Bhashya on the banks of the Ganga. As he was doing that, when old Brahmana came and asked what was happening there. Obviously, this is the story with Vyasa. The reason why I'm not keeping any suspense is what I said in the beginning. You all probably have heard Bhagavad Pada Charitra more than me. Some of you, you all are probably older than me. You have heard this probably not just from books, but from Jagat Gurus themselves. You all know more than me as well. So my point here is not to tell you what happened, which is why I will be very frank upfront about what the ghatta that is about to happen is. But I am trying to explore more the hows and whys of what happened internally. So yes, this is a Vyasa ghatta, but what I am most interested in right now is the topic that was discussed by Vyasa Maharshi and Shankaracharya, and the way that it happened. And so see, Vyasa Maharshi came there and in the form of a Brahmana and asked the students, and they said, he is our teacher, he is teaching the Brahma Sutra. So then Vyasa asks Shankaracharya, oh, Shankaracharya, you think you know what Badarayana Maharshi meant when he wrote the sutras? Let us see, do you think you know what he means? And Shankaracharya replied with the utmost humility, Sutrajñataham kritirastino me sutrartha vidbhyostu namo gurubhyah tathapi yat prachasi tad bravimi. So Mahasanidhanam Varu he mentioned this shloka when he was speaking in Srikalahasti in his 2011 to 2013 Vijaya Yatra. And he was saying, these days, what did Bhagavad Pada say here? He said, Sutrajñataham kritirasti no me. I do not have the arrogance of presuming that I know exactly what the sutras mean. And namaskaram, if there are definitely people like Badarayana Maharshi and Shuka Maharshi and my gurus who know what the sutras mean. So namaskaram to all of them. But I will try to explain whatever it is that you decide to ask me. This is the Vinaya. Mahasanidhanam Varu was saying, Bhagavad Pada, being Sarvajna, being Parameshwara, being the student of Govinda Bhagavad Pada, you know, how much humility he had. He said, I do not have the ahankara of saying that I know exactly what Badarayana Maharshi meant. So if Bhagavad Pada is like that, these days people will read one book, two books, listen to one pravachana, and the pride gets to their heads. So Bhagavad Pada is a reminder to us. The way he spoke is a reminder to us that whatever we know, it is always very little. We know a drop of the ocean and we need to be cognizant of that. So then the question that Vyasa Maharshi chose to ask Bhagavad Pada is, in the third adhyaya of the Brahma Sutras, the first pada, first adhikarana, first sutra, Tadantara Pratipatto Ramhati Samparishvaktah Prashna Nirupanabhyam. So he said, tell me the meaning of this. So Bhagavatpada responded, Saprahajeva Karanavadane Saprahajeva Karanavasane Samveshtito Gachati Bhuta Sukshmaihi Tandishyuto Gautama Jaiviliya Prashnottarabhyam Pratithoyamartha. So I'll just tell the sutra artha first. Tadantara pratipatto ramhati samparishvaktaha prashna nirupanabhyam. Tadantara pratipatto dehantara pratipatto ramhati gachati samparishvaktaha bhuta sukshmai samveshtitaha prashna nirupanabhyam Gautama Jaiviliya Prashnottarabhyam is the Sanskrit sutra artha. So Tadantara pratipatto, as the jiva leaves one body to go to the next, Ramhati, he goes, Samparishvaktaha, accompanied by the Sukshma Bhutas. Bhutas, not Bhuta Pishachas here, the Panchabhutas, Prithivya, Tejo, Vayu, Akashas. So he goes accompanied by the Sukshma Bhutas. And how do we know this? Prashna Nirupanabhyam, due to the questions and answers put together between Gautama and Jaiviliya in Chandogya Upanishad. So there is this one Vidya in Chandogya Upanishad called Panchagni Vidya, Panchagni Vidya. So Panchamya Mahuta Vapaf Purusha Vachaso Bhavanti is the Vedavakya there. So there are 5 quote-unquote Agnis that Ahutis are offered into, and as the product of the last Agni, Purusha is formed. So the human, the Jiva, with the body is brought about. So what are the 5 Agnis? Dyu, Parjanya, Prithivi, Dyu, Parjanya, Prithivi, Purusha, Yoshit. Dyu, Parjanya, Prithivi, Yoshit. I'm missing one. Dyu, Parjanya, Prithivi, Purusha, Yoshit. 5. Dyu, Parjanya, Prithivi, Dyu, Parjanya, Prithivi, Purusha, Yoshit. Dyu, Akasha, Parjanya, the Vrishti Meghas, or the forces of rain. Prithivi, Bhumi, Purusha, man, Yoshit, woman. So the weight and the 5 ahutis. So the 5 things that are being offered in our Shraddha goes into Dyu. Shraddha, Soma, Vrishti, Anna, Reto Rupaha, Ahutihi. So Shraddha goes into Dyu. Soma goes into Parjanya. Then, so it starts with Shraddha. Shraddha goes into Dyu. Soma goes into Parjanya. Vrishti goes into Prithivi. Anna goes into Purusha. Retas goes into the Yoshit. There we go. The reason is there are 5 on this side and 5 on this side. And if you don't put the sequence properly, it becomes confusing. So the way it works is with Shraddha, Ahutis are done into Yajna, into the fire. That goes to Aditya, into Akasha. From that Akasha, rain clouds are formed. The rain clouds rain. With the rain, the rain enters the Bhumi. From Bhumi comes Annam. Annam is going into the Purusha. From Purusha, Retas, so the seed, the semen, the sperm is being formed. That is going into the Stri. And then from the Stri, the human is coming forth. So this is the sequence. So the end result for the body of the Purusha, right? So the body of the Purusha is coming from the Stri. And where did this body come from? The Retas that was offered into the Stri. Where did this Retas come from? From the Purusha. How did the Purusha make the Retas? By Annam. Where did this Annam come from? From Bhumi. Where did Bhumi get the ability to make Annam from? From Vrishti, from rain. Where does the Vrishti come? From Akasha. Where did the ability to rain come to Akasha? From Yajnas. From the Ahutis that went to the Akasha. And how did these ahutis go to the Akasha? Because of Shraddha. So Shraddha there is, but now we get the question, where are the Sukshma Bhutas here? So we are saying what the purpose of this sutra is. What is the sutra saying again, just to remind ourselves? When the Jiva goes from one body to the next, he goes accompanied by Sukshma Panchabhutas. This is what the sutra is saying. So by saying, so what are the Prashna Nirupanabhyam? What are the Prashnottaras showing? That the Purusha's body is formed from Shraddha. So in this whole chain, the end result is the Purusha's body. Purusha being man, not just a male or female, a human body. The beginning comes from Shraddha. So the overall purport now becomes the jiva goes from one body to the next accompanied by Sukshma Bhutas, because of the conversation that shows that from Shraddha the Purusha comes, the Purusha's body comes. how does the Purusha coming from Shraddha show that the Purusha goes accompanied by Panchabhutas from one body to the other? The reason being, Shraddha does not just mean the faith Shraddha that we usually take it to be. In Shastra, in Veda, there is a saying called Shraddha va apaha. So Shraddha is a way of referring to apa. The other way of understanding it is Shraddha purvaka karma samavayinyaha apaha. So Shraddha is needed for any karma, right? So karma only works when Shraddha comes, which is why we have a Shraddha Sukta. And it details that the person who does karma with Shraddha obtains the best fruit of that karma. And for Vedanta also, karma Shraddha is a prerequisite. It is one of the Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti that is in the Adhikara, that is in the four qualities needed for a sadhaka. But without Shraddha, no karma is done. So Shraddha and karma go hand in hand. Jalam, so water is karma samavayinya. Samavayi sambandha means a nitya sambandha. So a relationship that is permanent. So karma and water go together. Which is, you do sandhya vandana, water. You do a homa, water. You have a yajna, water. You have a puja, water. Brahma yajna, water. Tarpana, water. We will not have a karma without water. So karma and water are linked. So Shraddha Purvaka Samavayinyaha Apaha Shraddhapada Vachyaha Bhavanti. So Shraddhapada Vachyartha is water. So the point here being Shraddha actually means water. Shraddha stands for water. So now the chain is starting from Shraddha and ending in the Purusha Sharira. So now we're saying Shraddha is Jalam. So it is starting from Jalam and ending in the Purusha Sharira. Now we get the question, but the Purusha Sharira is not just made up of water, right? There are Panchamahabhutas, there are Panchabhutas. So Prithvi, Ap, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha. So all five of these need to be there. How can you say that only water is the cause of the next body? So that's why the sutra right after this in the third adhyaya. So third adhyaya, first pada, first adhikarana. Second sutra is Triyatmakatvattu Bhuyastvat. So true, water is the only one that is said there. But Jalam is an upalakshana for the other bhutas. So for example, upalakshana is like if you say Federer plays tennis. Federer, there people like Federer who play tennis. If you say Federer, there is an upalakshana. Federer is not the only person that plays tennis. Or if you say people like Sachin Tendulkar play cricket. So Tendulkar is not the only person that plays cricket. Tendulkar is an upalakshana for all kinds of people that play cricket. Right. So that in that way, I don't know if actually that is the best way of explaining upalakshana in English. But the Jalam is an upalakshana there. So Jalam actually conveys all the bhutas behind it, because in the Trivrit Karana Prakriya that you have in Chandogya. So tat Tejos Srijata, tad Apos Srijata, tat Prithivim Asrijata. So that Annam Asrijata. So Tejo Banna Srishti. So Trivrit Karana that is put forth in Chandogya, because Akash and Vayu are Amurta Bhutas, it omits it there. This Panchikarana comes in Taitriya. Yatasmadva Atmana Akasha Sambhuta Akashat Vayu Vayor Agni Agnirapaha. So the sequence of the five bhutas comes in Taitriya, but this is the Chandogya Prakriya of Trivrit Karana, where he only says Tejas. So Agni was formed from Tejas, Apaha came. So Jalam came. Apaha, Annam. So Annam here means Prithvi. So from in this Chandogya Prakriya, in this Trivrit Karana, which is what it's called, Tejas, Up and Annam, these three are melded together, they're molded together. So when we say Apaha, Apo Bhuyastvat, so Tryatmakat, the sutra there is, the Brahma Sutra there is, Tryatmakattu Bhuyastvat. So Tri Atmakatvat, because this water is actually three things: Prithvi, Tejas, and Jalam, and also Bhuyastvat, even percentage wise, water is the greatest of these three, which is exactly what science says today. Water makes up 75% of the human body. So because water is the most content heavy, or because the body's content is most tied up in water, and because this Jalam is an upalakshanam for both Tejas and Annam, we can say that we can only say the word water and have it form the basis for forming the Sharira. So overall, the meaning of that first sutra in the third adhyaya is the jiva, it is known, it is evident that the jiva goes accompanied by the Sukshma Bhutas from one body to another, because water is said to form the body in this Chandogya Shruti. So I hope the chain there is clear. Obviously, Brahma Sutra is somewhat complicated, and I don't know if my explanation has done it justice, but if it was simple, it wouldn't be Vedanta, right? If it was that simple, it wouldn't be Brahma Sutras. So when Bhagavad Pada did all of this explanation, Vyasa Maharshi was overcome with joy, because Vyasa Maharshi is Shankaracharya's Parameshti Guru's Guru, right? So Bhagavad Pada's Paramaguru is Gauda Bhagavad Pada. Gauda Bhagavad Pada's Paramaguru is Vyasa. So Vyasa is seeing the newest member of his Guru Shishya Parampara. And when a teacher sees a student that is very bright and has understood the student's teachings very properly, especially when the student has understood a text that the teacher himself has written properly, there will be no limits to that teacher's happiness. So Vyasa was experiencing that happiness. He made himself known to Bhagavad Pada, because these two argued for they argued for 8 days. They argued for over a week. And Padmapada then came and he said, Shankara Sakshat Vyaso Narayana Harihi Tayor Vivade Samprapte Kinkara Kinkarishyati. So he came and said, Shankaracharya Shiva, Vyasa is Vishnu. When those two are arguing over something, what will a Kinkara, what will a servant like me do? So then Shankaracharya understood that he is Vyasa and he did Namaskaram to him. And we owe, as Sanatana Dharmis, as Astikas, we owe Vyasa Maharshi an unimaginable debt. And Bhagavad Pada does a stuti there of Vyasa, and he says, Vedashadangan Nikhilancha Shastram Mahan Mahabharata Varirashihi Tvattaf Puranani cha Sambabhuva Sarvan Tvadiyan Khalu Angmayakhyam. Vedaha. It is Vyasa Maharshi that separated the Vedas. Shadangam, Vyasa Maharshi is also responsible for several works pertaining to the Shadangas. So Shiksha, Vyakaranam, Kalpam, Niruktihi, Jyotisham, Chandas. So those 6 Vedangas. Nikhilancha Shastram, so other Shastras. So there are obviously Vedanta. This Vedanta is a Parama Shastra, but also there is a Vyasa Vritti for the Yoga Sutras as well. And Mahan Mahabharata Varirashihi, the ocean of Mahabharata. How many things have we gotten from Mahabharata? Dharme cha arthe cha kame cha mokshe cha bharatarshapha. Yadi hasti tadanyatra. Yanne hasti natat kvachit. Whatever is there in Mahabharata is there in the world. If it is not there in Mahabharata, it is not there. Sanat Sujatiya, Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu Sahasranama, Shiva Sahasranama, Rudra Stotras, various Devata Stotras, Durga Stotra for Jaya that Arjuna does before Uttarago before war. Actually, no, not before Uttarago before the Kurukshetra war. Before Uttarago and Vijayadashmi, he prays to Durga Devi. That stuti is also there in Mahabharata. So all of these stutis, all the various akhyanas in Adi Parva, the story of Garutmanta, of Garuda, the story of Naladamayanti, the story of Dushyanta and Shakuntala, all of these things came from Mahabharata. And then of course the Ashtadasha Puranas. All of this, just Vyasa himself with Daya, with Anujigriksha towards all of mankind, he has given all of this. So Sarvam Tvadiyan Khalu Vangmayakhyam, all of Vangmaya, all of literature is yours. This is your kingdom, this is your dominion, this is your prasada. So Vyasa Chashtan Jagat Sarvam is the saying. So everything in this world has been touched upon by Vyasa. So Bhagavad Pada did namaskaram to that Vyasa, and then Vyasa said, and then Bhagavad Pada apologizes, I am sorry if I have explained anything improperly. Please here is the book. Here's the book I have written. Please take this and tell me the Guna Doshas. Please tell me what is right and what is wrong. You yourself correct it. I will be very fortunate. Vyasa Maharshi was very happy both seeing Bhagavad Pada's scholarship and seeing his Vinaya. And he says, there is nothing. I am giving your Bhashya my stamp of approval. This Bhashya will live Achandra Tararkam. This Bhashya, this Brahmasutra Bhashya will be there for all eternity. And Vyasa Maharshi said one thing there that I found very beautiful. He said, Govinda Shishyasya Kathanduruktihi. How will Govinda Bhagavad Padacharya student write anything that is wrong? You are my student. I know who you are. This Guru Shishya Parampara is perfect, immaculate. Govinda Shishyasya Kathanduruktihi. How will Govinda Bhagavad Padacharya student say something that will turn out to be wrong? It will not happen. This Bhashya is perfect. I am giving it my stamp of approval. So that is why Bhagavad-pada's Bhashya shines as his greatest scholarly work, because the person that wrote the object of commentary itself gave the Bhashya their accidents. He acceded to the authority of that Bhashya. So that is the divine meeting of Vyasa Maharshi and Shankaracharya. So tomorrow, while today we have dealt mostly with Vedanta, tomorrow in the next session we will be dealing with the tussle between two sisters, Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa, because we will have Bhagavad-pada come to see what Sureshwaracharya is doing. We will also have the story of Kumarila Bhatta coming. So such important, somewhat dense topics will be there tomorrow as well. So we are very nicely, actually every day we are stopping, thinking of gurus in one way or the other. The first day we stopped with Bhagavad-pada's birth. Yesterday we stopped with doing namaskaram to the Guru Parampara because he was studying from Govinda Bhagavad-padacharya. Today we are very nicely stopping with Jagat Guru Vyasa. So Krishna is Jagat Guru, Vyasa Maharshi is Jagat Guru, Bhagavad-pada is Jagat Guru, and all the teachers in that lineage up to today's Mahasannidhanam Varu and Sannidhanam Varu are also Jagat Gurus. So doing namaskaram to all of them, I will stop here. Ityesha Vangmaye Puja Shrimat Shankara Padayor Arpita Tena Devesha Priyatam Me Sadashivaha Tava Tatvanna Janami Kidrishosi Maheshwara Yadrishosi Mahadeva Tadrishaya Namo Namaha Mangalam Stambhadimbhaya Mangalam Mrityave Mangalam Raudra Rupaya Narasimhaya Mangalam.